This is the Sunday stream opening song because the other song is copyrighted. La 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 la. Oh look, here comes Dog Cat Fox.
Hi, Sky.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday stream. The stream I do on Sundays because Sunday is the day to stream on Sundays. Hope you're all doing well on this beautiful Sunday morning. It's actually kind of nice out. You'll probably get uncomfortably warm later, but hey, that's what air conditioning is for, if you have it. And if you don't, you have my sympathies, because I didn't have air conditioning until just a couple of years ago. And it has to be like a, one of those mobile units you get from Walmart for like $400. Why am I talking about air conditioning? It's Sunday! I haven't done a Sunday stream in a while now. Yesterday, I took a trip with Sister Scribe to visit Mama Scribe and Dad Scribe and see how they were doing. And spent the day with them, had some lunch, did a little shopping, a little talking, and they're doing well. All things considered. From NPR. But anyway, who's joining me on this beautiful Sunday morning? The Alexander. Good morning. Mike R. Hello. Kiro Soldier. Good morning. Who else is here? Oh, yes, I have to plug my own pinning there. So, at the top of the chat box, guys, I put up the link to a donation page for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. If you have the opportunity, please take a look at that. And if you are able to donate, please do so. But even if you can't, if you can share that out on social media, that would be appreciated. So, take a look at that when you have the opportunity. And thank you ahead of time for your consideration. Hi, I'm Steve. Good morning. Who else is here? Walter Tomaszewski. Scribe, my cats want to know if your litter box looks like Daddy's. White with eater in it. I assume you mean water. And a hole on the top to sit on. Well, kitty cats, the truth can be known. Yes, my litter box is similar to your father's. I hope that does not become too much of a shock to your systems. Robert Pincus, good morning. The best Remy, hello. Bridget. Good morning. Your internet's favorite lunatic, good morning to you. Juliet, hello. Advocatus Diaboli, good morning. Found, good morning. JB, hello. Fostonia, yo. Joe, Shadowclaw, good morning. Anybody else? Oh, Snortapoop because Snortapoopus Cuber, good morning. And scrolling. Keep that chat scrolling. Anybody else before I move on? I don't think so. I think that's everybody I see. If I missed you, if you're lurking, if you're in the future, good morning. And if I did miss you, please make yourself known and I'll say hello as I'm able. Also, the leaderboard is still going. At present, in the number 1 spot, Shadowclaw, number 2, Fostonia, number 3, Kiro Soldier. Each with 75 XP and tied with a whole bunch of other people for 75 XP. So there's still room to win, guys. Whatever winning means, you get a crown for a while. I'm still not quite sure what the benefit of this is, except for maybe bragging rights, but there you go. I regardless of whether you wear a crown, I'm just glad that you're here, sharing the morning with me and the rest of the group. And speaking of groups, employee resource groups. Yes, I have said several times in the last couple of weeks, boy, oh boy, I really should do something on employee resource groups because they keep coming up in articles I read about DEI programs or the death of DEI programs and so on. And I realized this is not a DEI Death Watch stream, but I felt like if I'm going to do something on ERGs, I should probably keep it all consolidated to one area. So that's what this is today. So what are employee resource groups, for those of you that may not know? Well, they are a mini splendored thing within companies and organizations, sometimes known as ERGs, sometimes known as employee network groups, sometimes known as business professionalism gatherings of individuals groups. I just made that one up, but why not? They all mean the same thing. Basically, it is a way to segregate your workforce on the basis of elements that more often than not, and I have to caveat it with that because almost always there's a veterans group in there, but more often than not, they are delineated on the basis of race, ethnicity, gender, or orientation. You may have one that's for people with disabilities, And you'll often have one that is dedicated to veterans to try to put a shine on that proverbial turd. The only group, as far as I'm concerned, that you see more often than not, that actually might make sense to have a corporate support group of one kind or another. But really, if there are going to be, support groups within a company, they should be about either circumstance or like a shared situation. Like in my previous employer, long time ago, there was a unofficial sort of phone tree for single parents who might need a babysitter or might need some help or some advice or something. And because there were several people involved in my department who, for various circumstances, found themselves without a partner. There was a couple of widows or widowers and things like that. And so just as sort of a mutual support system, they started this little phone tree for single parents. And eventually it grew into, other people who might need some help with parenting advice and things like that. They weren't technically single parents, but, it was just a helpful little resource for people. And that was my first exposure to what would eventually become more formally branded as an employee resource group. And so when I first heard about these things, I would, my mind would harken back to that experience that, depending on the situation, that could be something beneficial. Until it started becoming more obvious that it wasn't about some mutual circumstance of life, but instead, this is a group for these colored people, and this is a group for these colored people, and ne'er the twain shall meet. And somehow this is supposed to imply that if you are a particular type of person, you need a special set of support because that element you possess indicates some kind of weakness? I don't know. I never really understood it, but now it's all about promoting inclusion and belonging. And it's the one thing that keeps being brought up in article after article I read when it comes to DEI programs being rolled back. Because even if they're being rolled back, you still have companies promoting their employee resource groups. Even though employee resource groups are an outgrowth of diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. So I'm thinking to myself, is this going to be the last bastion of DEI in companies that say they're getting rid of stuff, but still try to justify internal segregation of employees? I don't know. So, what I decided to do, I know it's really, really deep thinking here, I decided to look up what are the latest sort of corporate or consultant promotional videos I can find that have been posted within the last week or two. The really freshest stuff. What are people saying about their employee resource groups? How are they framing them? What kind of rhetoric are they using to describe them? Has it changed at all in the years since I started looking at this stuff? I don't know. I pre-screened all of them for the sake of sound quality. I think they should be all okay. Most of them are no more than 1 minute to 5 minutes long. There is one that comes from, I believe, a diversity consultant that lasts about 15 minutes. I don't know if I'll watch the entire 15-minute one. Depends on how interesting it is. But the title of it caused me to be curious about the content therein. So, that's all preamble. A couple more hellos here before we start up with the information. Jill Powers, the River Daughter. Good morning. Angela Arriaga. Good morning. Hope you're feeling better. Yeah, thank you, Angela. The trip home yesterday, I started having a migraine bubbling up because I was... you're sitting in a car for 2.5 hours and it's just constant motion and you've just had a nice big lunch with your family and it's kind of like you're sort of in a food coma, but then you haven't been outside of being in a car for 2.5 hours beforehand because there was the trip up in the morning and I just got, I was just bleh. My brain was bleh, my mood was bleh. I got home, I was bleh. And, but thankfully it took a while to get to sleep. But once I did get to sleep and I woke up this morning, I still had to drag myself out of bed. But, all that being said, I feel better now. So thank you, Uncle. That's a long answer to your well wishes. John Trioxin, good morning. Kay Scholl, hello. And also, Kirsten Scholl is over on the X Machine. Yes, guys, I keep forgetting to mention, I am simulcasting on X. So if you happen to have an X account and see this over on X, please do retweet out the stream. Twisted Skipster, hello. Hey, Scribe, can I get a happy birthday for my beautiful wife, Shar? I think I could arrange that. Do you want it to be serious or silly, Twisted Skipster? I do 2 brands here. I only do 2 modes. Serious birthday songs or silly birthday songs? Which do you think Shar would prefer? Let me know. Shadowclaw. Scribble, I just realized this competitive listing on YouTube seems to be the same leaderboards that Twitch has. I heard that from someone else. I'm not a Twitch aficionado, as some are. And so I think I forget who it was, but somebody, when I first reported this, said that looks a lot like what they do on Twitch. So YouTube emulating Twitch when Twitch is going on a downslope, I'm shocked. Twiz Skipster says, silly. All right, well, Shar. Wait, is it Cher or Shar? Is it like Sonny and Cher, or is it like Shard of Crystal? Which is it? I want to make sure I get it right. I'm very particular here. I don't want to screw this up. I gotta make silly for Shar, silly for Cher. This is like, oh, Sherry. I know. Twisted Skipster. Shar. Okay, Shar. Okay, Shar. Okay, here we go. Shar, I am told that it is your birthday. And so this one's for you. And a 1. Oh, let me turn off the background music. Don't want to get confused here. All right. And a 1. And a 2.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Shar. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, Shar. I hope you enjoyed it. My vocal cords didn't, but that's the sacrifice I make for the sake of entertainment. So, with all that being said, let's start off with, which one shall we do? Oh yes, we're looking at Fairer. I've never heard of Fairer, but they want to tell us about intersectionality and employee resource groups. Oh boy, I cannot tell you. I think I'm actually mentally incapable of telling you how long I have waited to talk about intersectionality again. But here we are. Also, Let Him Cook is here. Hey, you know who that is, guys? I don't know if you know this, but Let Him Cook is a friend of mine. Now, I don't have many friends. Well, I mean, like in real life, as it were. But this one you may be familiar with. This is my friend Satsu, aka Chef Tyrone, founder, owner, and CEO of Oishi Fried Chicken LLC, featuring a new line of signature spice mixes. Chef Tyrone's homemade blends are the perfect gateway to delicious fried chicken or any other protein you might prefer. These recipes were painstakingly tested in Tyrone's home kitchen to bring you all the fantastic flavors you and your family can enjoy. The current flavor lineup includes original, spicy, lemon garlic herb, barbecue rub, and taco seasoning. You can buy individual packs of your favorite flavors or save some money with a variety bundle, all through the online store. And Oishi Fried Chicken ships nationwide. Go to www.oishifc.com and order today. Yes, that is Satsu's Oishi Fried Chicken signature spices. Also, my mom's surgery went well, by the way. Yes, Mama Satsu, pardon me, I almost said Mama Scribe. Mama Satsu recently had to endure some surgery. I'm glad to hear she's doing well. Good to hear it, Satsu. Also, guys, in the world of Satsu, Let Him Cook is Satsu's latest YouTube channel, commentary channel. He just posted a video yesterday. If I'm not mistaken, and Satsu, correct me because my brain's a little foggy right now, it deals with the latest effort by the Democrats to attract men back to the Democratic Party by hiring Jabba the Hutt as their mascot. Am I close? Something like that. Anyway, go check out Let Him Cook on the YouTube machine. And if you're not already subscribed, do subscribe and watch his latest video and like it and share it because I told you to. Because that's what we do here. Also, Data Wasteland, good morning. Mr. Yes, hello. Anybody else? Did I miss anybody? Meh, good morning. Random American, hello. And I think that's everybody. Again, if I missed you, make yourself known, and I'll try to say hello later. Okay, anyway, so Ferrer is going to tell us about intersectionality and employee resource groups. This lasts 1 minute and 45 seconds. Do you think we'll make it? Let's find out. Okay.
There's a really interesting question around intersectionality and like employee resource groups.
There is a really interesting question around intersectionality and employee resource groups. Like, why? I mean, it might not be the most interesting question, but I think it's the most pertinent one. Why?
And I guess first of all, if we think about employee resource groups,
Yeah.
Historically they've been established as effectively support networks for historically disadvantaged groups. So people who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, queer, etc.
Etc. That's the plus. That's what the plus is.
Women, people of color,
Okay.
people with disabilities.
Yeah. Keep going.
Different dynamics effectively. So a whole host of different employee resource groups.
Yeah. There's nothing there for men or white people or Asian people. It's interesting, isn't it? And he didn't mention veterans. Okay.
And historically, those resource groups, and still now, actually, they've moved from, into ERGs or BRGs.
Business resource groups. That was the other one. Yeah, business resource groups.
They still often act in silos. So we have a gender group, a race group, a LGBT group, etc.
Yeah, and therein lies the question of legality. It's kind of a nebulous area, right? There's nothing, as far as I know, specifically under Title VII. Well, let me check real quick. I could be mistaken. I have been mistaken in the past. This is going to screw up the overlay thing real quick, but let's take a look at Title VII. The Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and I don't know if this company is British or American, but just for the sake of, argument, let's say it's American. Let's see. Makes it unlawful for an employer to discriminate against someone because of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. Let's see. Title VII also makes it unlawful for an employer to take negative action or retaliate against a person because they complained, etc., etc. Title VII also makes it unlawful to use policies or practices that seem neutral but have the effect of discriminating against people because of their race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. Okay, so I think that's where the question of legality lies with some of how these ERGs are constructed. If I say, oh, well, we have a African-American ERG, but, non-African Americans can join it, it seems neutral, or they say it's neutral, and yet the title of the very group would suggest a segregation on the basis of race, or gender, or ethnicity, depending on the circumstances. So I think that's why ERGs should still be given a whole lot of scrutiny by the legal authorities, like the Department of Justice, the Civil Rights Department therein, and the EEOC. And yet ERGs are constantly still promoted as part of the survivors of the DEI purge.
But often we all have intersectional identities.
Oh yes, I could be both a woman and disabled, right?
And so I guess one challenge at the moment for ERGs or BRGs is to think about how do we start bringing that intersectional connectivity into our organizational conversation. So
I know. I got an idea for you. I know it's a crazy idea. Okay, what if, and I know, what if Dr. Doom became the Sorcerer Supreme, but what if instead of delineating on the basis of race or gender or ethnicity or orientation or whatever, what if you just had the professional development group? Or maybe the professional development network, and then you had different groups underneath that umbrella that dealt with technical development, leadership development. What if it was about promoting an interest in skills-based networking and self-support rather than non-determinative factors of character and ability support? I know it's a crazy idea. I should probably patent it first before saying it out loud, but it might catch on.
So if you are chair of the LGBT network, what conversations are you having with the chair of the race network or the gender network?
The race network, the gender network. A network of two.
And really pulling together your collective experiences of the organizational culture that you're in order that you can develop collective strategies, processes, and policies so you can use your collective power.
I'm sorry. Every time he says collective, I just see this propaganda poster from, a Stalinist Russia floating above his head or something.
Collective wisdom to eliminate the bias and the discrimination and really drive forward that idea of promoting a culture which is based on the principles of respect, inclusion, belonging, and psychological safety.
Except that by the very nature of ERGs, you are discriminating. You're as you said before, you're siloing people on the basis of these elements. So the best way to, actually, I guess, engender intersectionality is to get rid of focusing on these surface level attributes and go to something more, I don't know, utilitarian, something more universal. Heaven forfend, is that it? That was it. Okay. Well, that was a minute 45 seconds from Fairer Consulting, whatever Fairer Consulting does. Let's see. Jill Powers, their hypocrisy is so ironic. Don't you think? TC, good morning. Eagle, exactly. I was thinking the Soviet Union or Communist China. Yes, our collective wisdom, our collective efforts, our collective. Word salad. Wait, there's no bingo card for this. I know this is not a bingo situation, but you can mentally construct your own bingo card. Unlimited collective power. It's funny that you say that, Mr. Yes, because when I read Jill Powers' comment about their hypocrisy is so ironic, the first image in my head was Emperor Palpatine saying ironic in episode 3, and then now you conjured an image of Palpatine with his lightning fingers. It's just a coincidence. It's just the mind meld we're all having right now. But there you go. That's Fairer Consulting. Are they fairer than the rest? Are they the fairest of them all? I don't know. But either way, let's move on to, let's see, what's this? Oh, yeah. What's the title of this one? Sorry, let me get it up here. We're going to move on to one called the Empowering Black Staff Me Too Black Employee Resource Groups. Or group. And by Me Too, or it's Me Squared? I don't know. It's the company is ME, capital ME, and the little 2 up at the top. That's like a mathematical deal for like squared. Yeah, so that's where we're going. Let me pull that one up. Is that there? That's there. Okay. So, yeah, so if we needed any, definition here, we know for a fact this is about an employee resource group on the basis of race. And how do we empower specifically staff who have a shared semi-common shade of skin? Let's find out. Duke University School of Medicine. Oh, no. Oh, boy. I didn't know that. All right. Well, yeah. So Me Too Black Employee Resource Group. Motivate, mentor, educate, and empower from Duke University School of Medicine. This will not be the only hailed university we'll be looking at today. We have Duke. I do have one from another school that you may recognize when we get to it. Okay, so Duke University School of Medicine. Tell me, oh tell me true, how do we empower our staff who are of a particular race?
Purpose of ME Squared is really to uplift the voices and the experiences of Black staff within the School of Medicine.
Why just Black staff? And by the way, I know it's a crazy question to ask, and I don't have the ability right this second to look it up, but is it possible Is it possible that Duke University School of Medicine is in any way, shape, or form the recipient of federal financial assistance? I mean, I don't know. Maybe Duke University is completely private. Maybe they receive no subsidies from the United States government. Maybe they receive no tax breaks from the United States government. Maybe they don't receive any kind of funding whatsoever. Maybe they're completely independent. They could be. I don't know. But if they aren't independent, if they accept even a penny of federal financial assistance, well, you know, Title VI prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, and national origin in programs and activities receiving federal financial assistance. Now, I don't know if, you know, doling out particular time and resources specifically to staff members on the basis of their race would violate title. I don't know. But I think it would be an interesting question. But that is if Duke University is the recipient of federal financial assistance. So,
recognizing that there are around 900 Black staff within the School of Medicine, we wanted to provide a space where individuals could recognize that they are not the only one, as many of them feel when they are in their own settings.
So the Black staff at the Duke University School of Medicine are so focused on the skin colors of the people around them that unless they see people with their same skin color, they feel alone in their settings. All right, well, I would be curious to know, would the ME squared leadership, what would their reaction be, and what would they say to an Asian member of staff that came up and said the same thing? Or a white member of staff that came up and said the same thing? You know, it's like, well, my skin's kind of ruddy because I'm Irish by, you know, heredity, and I don't see a lot of ruddy Irish people around. What are you going to do to fix that for me? What do you, I mean, it's the same argument. I wonder what they would say to that. Anyway.
So ME Squared mission is to mentor, motivate, educate, and empower. And in order for us to benefit from that as individuals and as a whole, we have to put those things into action.
Okay, well, tell me, what actions are manifested by this program that are specifically geared towards and to the benefit of staff members at the Duke University School of Medicine on the basis of skin color?
We have to put our mission into action.
Yes.
And we do that by contributing to our community.
Okay, what constitutes contribution?
We started during the pandemic when we couldn't meet together. And when we had our first meeting virtually on September 9th of 2021,
wow,
we had over 80 people on the call.
Wow, 80 people on the call. What was there a racial test to be able to join the call?
And it was just outstanding.
Oh, yeah.
So what really inspired us is it was a time in our country, a great deal of civil unrest.
Oh, please. Are you going to invoke Saint Fleur? Please invoke Saint Fleur.
We had a chance to ensure that we're lifting up the experiences of Black staff and promoting professional development.
Promoting professional development for staff on the basis of their skin color. I'm curious. Does Duke University accept federal funds by any chance?
Opportunities, internal and external.
Yeah.
We wanted to foster community. We wanted to engage individuals.
Individuals? Well, I think individuality is a secondary consideration in this case, isn't it?
ME Square has been involved in Families Moving Forward. We did a painting project.
Oh.
We've done a 5K run and walk in the heart of Durham.
Was this all as well racially segregated?
And Habitat for Humanity.
Last year in June,
June? Not on Juneteenth.
our first in-person meeting was Juneteenth.
Oh, it was Juneteenth. Can you believe it? It was Juneteenth.
And so to be able to gather together in person, the first time that Duke had Juneteenth as an official holiday was just wonderful. We had Mark Anthony Neal as a speaker, and everyone was just so engaged.
Well, I mean, celebrating Juneteenth now is sort of federally acceptable, unless or until that gets overturned. But yeah, Juneteenth celebration aside, you're still a program or activity within a university that is specifically geared towards people on the basis of race, aren't you? I mean, I guess both under Title VI and Title VII, because these are staff, so this is also an employer situation and not just a program and activity situation. So
We host an annual Juneteenth event, and we had an event where Coral May had a chance to be our keynote speaker.
I have no idea who Coral May is.
And the theme was raising your standards.
Raising your standards by having the gateway closed off to everybody except on the basis of a skin color. Okay.
We also are aiming to continue to have social engagement opportunities with the ERG,
So long as you pass the color test.
as well as ongoing meetings where we're going to get a chance to hear from speakers, hear also from attendees.
Speakers and attendees that are only allowed in because of their skin color. I'm not trying to be, repetitive or broken record pedantic here, but this, again, even to this point, after nearly 9 years of looking at this stuff, it still boggles my mind. And especially now, especially after finally someone in government or someones in government are taking a serious look at the actions of, well, specifically colleges, but also private business, and I hope more so for private business in the future, at these kinds of things and this kind of ideology, that this is still being promoted. Again, all of these videos, all these things we're looking at have been posted within the last couple of weeks. At worst, a month. So we're not talking about something from years ago. This isn't stuff that they're promoting from, back in 2021. This is all happening right now.
Get a sense of what they're hoping to get out of the experience. Employee resource groups also serve as an opportunity for a platform of community, whereas individuals are able to recognize that they do, in fact, belong at Duke.
Well, if you're talking about faculty and staff, I know this might seem a little condescending, I would assume that if I'm receiving a paycheck from Duke University, then I belong at Duke. If I have a lariat or something that's got my picture on a piece of ID or something that lets me into the building, I belong at Duke. Why is everyone's personal sense of self-esteem or their ego so fragile that on top of being a paid employee at Duke University, they also need to have their seemingly obsessive racial biases fed into by Duke University? You keep building up this situation as though it were something positive, but it really describes something that's kind of insidious. Because again, I know it's a crazy thought experiment. Imagine if this video was geared towards white people having their own space at Duke University where they can feel like they belong. And they can feel like they're not alone. And that they can feel like, they're part of the whole. What if it was for white people? Imagine the scandal if Duke University was found to have a white-centric employee resource group, and you had white members of this employee resource group praising the fact that they got to be around people who looked like them. Imagine that. Yeah, just imagine. Oh, that was it. Okay. All right. Well, at least as of the publication of this video, Duke University School of Medicine still has an Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And Advocatus Diaboli. Johnny on the spot with research. Scribelites, Duke does get federal money. In 2023, they got $1 billion, which was 33% of their research funding. Well, good golly, Miss Molly. I think that puts them squarely. And again, I'm happy to be corrected. But if they accepted $1 billion of taxpayer money, I think that puts them under Title VI, at the very least, which is far more broad in some ways than Title VII. But yeah, any programs or activities receiving federal financial assistance, and since money is fungible, by extension, Duke University falls into that category. And yeah, well, gee. And again, since this is talking about staff and not just students or any kind of, detached individuals from the payroll, this would also, I think, qualify as a violation of Title VII. Now, as always, I have to caveat, I am not a lawyer, I'm not a civil rights expert, but as a layman, just reading the basics of what the laws are meant to do and discourage, I'd say there's probably at least a reasonable case to make an inquiry. But I will leave that up to the professionals at the EEOC and the Justice Department. I just hope that, there's eventually some follow-through on such. But anyway, so that apparently was Duke University. Shall we move on to another college? Oh, wait a second. How long is this one? This one's 2 minutes. This one's a minute. Let's start off with the minute one. We'll start working our way towards the longer pieces. That sounded kind of weird when I said it out loud, but...
Hi.
Whoa, hi. Sorry, that happened really fast. Okay, so this is a minute-long promo from a company called Novartis. And this came up when I was looking for employee resource groups, but employee resource group is not in the title, so it might be somewhere in the description. The title of this one is Thrive Together, Learn About Inclusion at Novartis. So I'm rolling the dice that this has something to do with ERGs. So we'll find out. But before I get there, people have been saying stuff in chat, so let me look at this. Luna says, any other place besides the campus of Duke University in the city of Durham, North Carolina, you would be well advised to be capable of speaking jive. I learned a little bit watching Airplane, but that's about as close as I ever got. Jill Powers, 41 watching and only 20 likes. Smash those like, subscribe, and share buttons to help Scribe's channel grow. That's right, guys. Your liking this show is the fertilizer that grows my channel. No, but please do. Yeah, if you haven't already, please do hit the like button. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe. Sometimes YouTube does unsubscribe people without them knowing. And yeah, if you like this kind of thing or think other people might enjoy it as well or be interested in it, please do share it out. Yeah, and so I appreciate the reminder, Jill Powers. I often forget to remind to like and such. I don't want to feel needy. I don't want to sound needy sometimes. But there's some pragmatic realities to how this all works. So thank you, Jill Powers. Holy cats, Fostonia, thank you so much. Can it be that this new generation has been totally failed by the older generation in teaching them how we got to where we are now and what it was like before the 60s? Now they are talking segregation? Amazing. Yes, isn't it interesting how everything old is new again? I was just having a conversation with somebody about this yesterday, in fact, about how there's... Okay, and I have to predicate this by saying it's just my interpretation of things. In the broad strokes, it seems as though the more recent generations either do not have or have not been asked to imagine a world prior to their existence. And let me sort of try to frame that. I have never known want or hunger. I have never known homelessness. I have never known the necessities of having to sacrifice for the sake of supporting a war effort, let's say. But my parents did, and my grandparents certainly did. My grandparents, at least a couple of them, survived the Dust Bowl. My grandfather on my mother's side served in the Air Force in World War II. My grandfather on my father's side served in the Merchant Marine during World War II. My parents, well, there's a litany of hardships my parents had to endure, both by circumstance and just life in general, that I won't go into here. But anyway, I am aware of the history of my family and my forefathers, let's say, four and more. And I can conceptualize what it took for them to get through all those things, and then I can also then compare and contrast with what they went through and what my sister and I in particular now don't have to go through, and the benefits we were provided as a result of their honest labor and sacrifice. Now, those benefits are not guaranteed, because my sister and I, again, just as examples, had every ability to make worse choices for ourselves. We were not locked into a particular fate. And in fact, in many ways, my sister and I's lives diverged very severely after, say, high school. She led a completely different kind of life than I did, and me, led mine. And we both had the same opportunities, the same start point. And we did with these benefits and opportunities that we had in our own way. But nothing was guaranteed, and we did not have a free ticket to success. And so whatever hardships or difficulties I may have in my regular day and elsewise, I do occasionally, because it's still in my mind, I still think about, as compared to where you're at now, think about your grandmother, your grandfather. Think about what they had to go through. Think about the things they did, or were forced to do as a result of things and circumstances that you couldn't possibly imagine happening to you, but that did happen. And so I think there's... It's kind of a weird thing to say, but I think the absence of hardship is something that weakens people and weakens a society. It's not, but that, of course, the converse of that is, well, am I wishing hardship upon the country? Am I wishing another World War II so everybody can remember what's important in life? No, not at all. But it's difficult to imagine something else that could remind a society or a generation about what's meaningful, what's important, what it's like to not have something and then to have it again. So I don't know where I'm going with this, but maybe you've derived something out of that. I hope that was a decent response to your notion there, Faustonia, because it did remind me of something I was just talking about the other day. Also, Roan Harushan is here. And Luna says, my grandfather was born in a barn. Yeah, imagine that. Matt, all supply lines were gone, Eagle, and it was a really good cold fucking winter. Oh. You're talking about something else. Okay. Let's see. Jill Powers. Hey, Faustoni. I tried and then got blackballed for it. They're all Marxists running dictatorships and fiefs. Walter Tomaszewski. Humans in general and throughout the ages are very bad when putting historical events in any sort of meaningful context. Well, or at least have a notion of how things were before and really have an understanding of that, even if only abstractly. I mean, I can't know what it was like for my grandmother and her family to have to go through, like I say, the Dust Bowl and the Great Depression. I can't know that. I can only have an inkling from the stories they've told or what bits and pieces I know from, the historical record. But just to imagine that contrast between where I'm sitting now versus where they were then, it's difficult not to admire the fact that their perseverance led to me being here today. And that whatever values they instilled in my parents trickle down into who I am today, and that kind of thing. So, anyway, long, circuitous route answer or response to your comment, but there you go. Also, Resolute Germ, good morning. All right, anyway, so yes, back to the show, actually. This is Novartis talking about inclusion at Novartis.
Hi, I'm Abha, a proud ally for the LGBT plus community and also a member of Aglo ERG at Novartis.
Oh, okay, wait. So you're ally for the LGBT, so you yourself are straight then? Because ally means someone who doesn't belong, but is a cheerleader, effectively. And you're also a member of Aglo ERG at Novartis. Aglo. What could that mean? AGLO. We said ally. Allies of gay, lesbian, something? I don't know. What is AGLO?
Novartis champions the spirit of inclusivity and provides an array of benefits for the people from the LGBT plus community.
Why? Why specifically? What benefits? So how do I prove that I'm worthy of these benefits at this company? You just take my word for it? Like if there's something special that people get because they sleep with certain people, or you know what I mean? Like what's the interview process to join this ERG?
Our medical insurance policy covers not only spouses, but also partners of the same gender and the opposite gender.
Okay, I don't know if Novartis is a American-based company or not. I think, and I'm happy to be corrected because I don't claim to be an expert. I think that insurance plans in America now, after same-sex marriage was legalized nationwide and everything, I think they already cover this, or should, or are required to. I think so, aren't they?
The policy also supports gender change surgery.
Oh, gender change surgery. Oh, well, great. As long as they are consenting adults. Okay.
Similarly, our relocation policy not only identifies spouses as family, but also partners of the same gender or the opposite gender.
I think you kind of already said that. Okay.
We have around 70 plus ERGs at Novartis globally.
70 plus ERGs. You've delineated your workforce down into 70 different splinter groups. Good gravy.
And AGLO is the ERG at Hyderabad Novartis, which stands for the LGBT plus community.
AGLO stands for the LGBTQ. So is it just an ERG for allies of another ERG?
We do a lot of initiatives on the ground for our people, like holding sensitization sessions.
Sensitization sessions. I think there's another word for that. Is the word struggle?
For all our associates,
Yeah.
and we ensure that we create an environment which is open and safe for everyone.
Everyone? Everyone.
Join us in our endeavor to create an environment which is inclusive and where we all thrive together.
Inclusive. I mean, you have 70 plus splinter ERGs. You're siloing everybody on who knows how many different niche aspects to cover all the bases. I'm not going to look it up. I can only imagine what they're all about. Good gravy. Okay, well, that was it. There you go. Novartis, whatever they are. And did I just hit upon all of, like, the medicine ones? Like the, I don't know Ferrer was consulting, but then we get Duke University School of Medicine. And then if I'm not mistaken, one of the other ones here I have, is it medicine? No, it's not. So it's a business school, pardon me. I thought it was another medical thingamabobber. Let's see, that's 5 minutes, that's 2 minutes, that's 16. Okay, well anyway, there's Novartis. Not much there, it's about a minute long. Toot sweet, Novartis makes drugs. No, so did Walter White. I wonder if he has a ERG. Anyway, so there's that. Who's next? AECOM? AECOM. AECOM? I don't know who they are. Let's find out. AECOM. This one is called, let me pull it up here. A culture where everyone's welcome. Okay. Tell me, oh, tell me true.
I've been at ACOM since 2016.
Good eye, mate. Boy, did I just pull like British companies or something by accident? Okay, you've been at ACOM since 2016. This is project manager, buildings and places. Okay.
And since then, I've always felt welcome.
Always? Okay. Then, so there's never been a problem?
I've always felt like this is a cultural safe place for me.
A cultural safe place. Okay.
ACOM breeds ED&I, equity, diversity, inclusion.
Equity, diversity, and inclusion. Okay, please don't tell me that companies are just flipping around the letters to try to avoid scrutiny. ED&I, but this is, I mean, unless I'm completely wrong, this is some kind of Australian-based company. Okay, ED&I, or maybe that's the Australian version of DEI. ED. ACOM breathes ED, equity, diversity, inclusion to all of its regions.
To all of its regions.
In 2020,
Yeah.
Ecom, they put a world map.
Yeah.
So, and asked the team to put like where you're from and the country of origin, all of that place of birth. So
Really? Because I've been told that if you ask somebody where they are from, that's tantamount to being racist. But okay.
that place of birth. So like in 2 weeks time, I saw the map is like fully of stickers. And I feel like, yeah, really like it's multicultural company.
Oh, it's a multicultural company. Do you represent a culture or do you represent you?
You know, like few people from South America, like Middle East, Iran,
Yeah.
Syrian, Lebanese, and
Uh-huh.
you know, like European, Australian, everything, you know, all the states. Like it's multicultural. All they are working together to build a great project in Victoria or in Australia.
Okay. And what does that say about the skills, education, or experience of the individuals? I guess I'd also have to know what exactly does ACOM do, because does having like actual cultural differences benefit in some way? Does ACOM hire people on the basis of where they come from? I don't know.
We have a lot of employee resource groups that really play to people's and to be able to identify with their own community.
Their own community, right. So you belong in this group because you come from this country or this culture or this skin color. We're a multicultural company. We bring people from all over the place, and then we specifically segregate them into their own little tribes within the company. Okay.
And work out how they get to feel seen and heard as well, and how they experience the organisation and how they navigate it as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so integration, assimilation. Now we're going to make sure everybody's still at home with themselves and the people that they belong with. Okay.
For me, pride is important because it shows that, for me, I'm proud of who I am.
I hate to tell you this. Your culture, your ethnicity does not define who you are. I know it's crazy. You know, I mean, I could say, I'm proud of American culture because of who I am. And yet simply saying American culture means I have grouped myself up with anyone who's an American, which says nothing about any individual's, you know, personal value system or their character or, you know, anything else. But okay, I mean, Renovatio, Walter White was fired and replaced with Winona Black in the last inclusion pogrom. Well, I could see that. Oh, Faustonia again, thank you so much. Appreciate it. It's high time we as a country recognize the oppression of ginger Creole mathematics challenge broccoli sensitive geriatric attracted Americans. I propose we make July an awareness month for them. Okay, now see, I can't help but try to like piece out what each of those words' first letters might spell. No, okay. Thankfully, there wasn't a hidden message in there. I was like, uh-oh. But yes, no, I mean, if you whittle everybody down to some very, very niche specific elements and then claim oppression, welcome to the progressive stack. You know, it hasn't changed all that much since Occupy Wall Street. Anybody here remember the progressive stack at Occupy Wall Street where they would literally hand the microphone to the most quote-unquote oppressed person within the group who had literally checked off boxes as to which elements they possessed, and the person with the most check boxes got to hold the microphone first? Or in the absence of a sound system, I remember this is so silly. In the absence of a sound system, everybody in the collective would be absolutely quiet. And then the person who was most oppressed would say something as loud as they could. And then everybody else in the group would have to repeat it verbatim, very loud, to act as a sound system. Does anyone remember that? I remember that. Pepperidge Farm remembers.
And it's important to have an environment where we can be proud of who we are.
who we are? Sure, I guess. How do you evaluate who?
I'm Syrian. Yeah, so like every start is difficult.
You're Syrian, so every start is difficult. Why?
Australia is the most difficult country for me.
Okay, and I'm honestly curious why.
I came with my family, my wife and my kids.
Well, you're lucky.
So like, it's not easy to restart again.
Well, it's not easy for anybody to restart. If you came to a completely different country with your family to try to start a new life, it's not easy for anybody.
And start looking for a job and start looking a good company.
Yeah.
So like, you feel like I'm lucky. I'm so proud to be here and lucky working like, you know, for ecom and also lucky to be here in Australia.
You know, there was some editing there. There's more to this guy's story that we didn't hear. And I can't say I'm not curious to know what was the difficulties he encountered.
Representation and diversity is so important for our culture here at ACOM. Because
I can tell.
With diversity, you get richness of thoughts.
Well, if you're talking about, you know, the diversity of thinking, diversity of perspective, sure. But you're not highlighting that. You're highlighting ethnicity, country of origin, and so on. So far, it's just been surface level stuff. But okay.
Richness of ideas, and with that ultimately comes better outcomes for our people, our clients and communities.
Really? Okay. Quantify better outcomes.
I constantly tell friends and family that if they want a job at ACOM, like, apply. It's such a great environment to work in.
Is it, though? I mean, if you say so, but I don't know. Seems kind of surface level to me. I mean, he didn't even talk about what you do. He didn't even talk about what you learn. Diversity of thought, doing what? Delivering a better world. It sounds like Wayland Yutani, almost. Anyway, Jill Powers, richness of thought, when you barely use your brain and blame everyone else for problems that you created. Poor baby is always a victim. Boo effing who? Well, it's possible. I mean, they put the best shine they can on this stuff, but, you know, it's like, hey, welcome to our company. Where are you from? I'm from here. Oh, well, that's not very diverse. Your thoughts must not be very diverse. We don't know if you'll be good here. Oh. I'm still very curious to know what that Syrian guy's story was, because they did a lot of editing around that guy. Yeah, who knows? Renovatio. A group of Syrian refugees in 2015. Week 1, they thanked the Irish. Free housing, healthcare, education, etc. By week 6, they were claiming Ireland was worse than Syria and demanding the Irish build them a mosque. That sounds familiar. Is that true? I think that I vaguely remember something like that. I know that Ireland has had some issues in the last several years. I think I read a story not too long ago about something about that. Yeah. They sleep like bats in Australia. Boy, oh boy. Have you seen that? Do they still do that as a thing? Those moon boots where you hang yourself upside down. Is that good for your circulation, or where they do like sit-ups in the air kind of thing? Dom O'Leary. Hey, all. Hey, Dom O'Leary. By your name, are you from Ireland? We were just talking about Ireland. And it's not bad for me to make assumptions about your origins because they do it in Australia, so there you go. I don't know. Let's see. ACOM has a lot of urban planning work to do in Gaza. Yeah, possibly so. All right, so next on the block is the second longest video. And it comes from our friends at the Harvard Business School. Oh boy, guys, Harvard. Very much in the headlines lately because of its, it being hard at work on violating Title VI. Both before the Supreme Court decision in 2023 and decidedly, possibly after. And they're losing lots of funding. What is it, like $9 billion or something that they get on a regular basis? Why do we not own Harvard University at this point as taxpayers? I don't know. They're a private school. Well, they're private, yeah, except for all the billions of dollars they accept. Dom O'Leary, born in Australia, scribe, family from Galway, Ireland. All right. Well, there you go. Well, then that would then wait. Do you work at ACOM? Hey, Dom O'Leary, there's a company in Australia. Well, I mean, maybe you don't live currently in Australia, but there's a company in Australia called ACOM, and they'll hire you because you're multiculturally, geographically diverse. And that's the first test. Now, whether or not you have any ideas to offer, I guess that's probably a secondary consideration. But, all right. Well, I see I'm learning something more about the people in my audience. Faustonia, scribe, I got a teeter. Freaking great for the back. Would not do it for more than 10 minutes, let alone sleep one. I think I know what you're talking about. I'm envisioning what you're talking about. Yeah, there's... What was that? What was that movie? There was a movie where like this kid, it's a foreign film, as in not American or English. Was it? I think was it The Slingshot or? Anyway, it was set in like the 30s or the 40s or something, and this kid's dad, the entire movie, this kid's dad was like disabled, and he was like having to walk over with this hunch and everything. And then one day, this dad goes to this, amazing chiropractor guy, and he hangs the dad up on this harness that's hung from the ceiling that tightens around his shoulders or whatever. And I remember the chiropractor like lifted the dad up and then just dropped him. And then there was this cracking sound, and then the dad was like, oh! And like 20 or 30 years of absolute pain and discomfort were gone, and he could walk straight up again. It was like a miracle. It was like, oh my gosh, chiropractor, he cracked his back, and he was cured. I don't know why that suddenly came to me. I haven't thought about that in forever. I think it was a movie called The Slingshot. I don't know if my memory's off on that. Dang, if my memory's right on that, then I feel good about myself. Anyway, let's see what the Harvard Business School has to say. What is their spiel on this one? This would be, I think, yes, the power and pitfalls of ERGs, inclusion, intersectionality, and why they still matter. Is that correct? What are employee resource groups? Tell me.
Employee resource groups are groups that are organized around a particular social identity.
Particular social identity. Is skin color an identity?
Such as a racial identity.
A racial identity. Oh, okay. Because racial identitarianism is cool.
Being black, being Asian, or a gender identity, such as being a woman, or certain types of professional experiences, such as...
Well, wait. I can't have a gender identity of being a man? Can only women have a gender identity? Let's see. Oh, Abdicaz Diabli. It was Slingshot, and it is Russian. Well, the guy is at least. Okay. Yeah, but now the question is, did I get the plot point correct to the movie about the dad and the back? That's the big thing. I'm not mixing up films here.
Just veteran status.
Veteran status. Yeah, so we start off with race, gender, and then something that actually reflects someone's, sacrifice and merit. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know.
They were meant to meet the needs of employees who had been historically marginalized.
Historically marginalized, because you assume them to be in a victimhood position because of what they are, which in itself isn't both racist and or sexist, depending on what ERG we're talking about.
Within society. So black employees at Xerox began them in the early 1970s.
Ooh, the early 1970s. Okay, so not long after the Civil Rights Act. Uh-huh. Do they still make sense today?
To help reduce racial discrimination and give black employees access to more opportunity within the companies.
Uh-huh. And how does that jive with Title VII, or in the case of like Harvard Business School, both Title VII and Title VI?
Over time, they've started to try to say, well, what does the business want also? And in some ways, meet both constituents. So
I think the business wants productivity and profits. I know it's a crazy notion. What does the ERG want? Well, the ERG wants racial preference at this point. In the early aftermath of the Civil Rights Act, and I'm talking like in the first decade or two, extended the first 2 decades, let's say, there was some rationale and justification for programs and activities that technically broke civil rights law in an attempt to try to make up for lost time after the advent of those laws taking effect. Because even if you draw a line in the sand and say, okay, from 1964 and forward, we are not going to behave this way as a country anymore under law. Okay, that doesn't do anything for the current generation and the one previous to it that had to live under those broken laws previous, or those bad laws. So how do you, again, you can't fix the past, but you can try to make up for lost time. So having things like affirmative action, even though they fundamentally violate the spirit and the letter of the existing laws, you could understand why they would exist for a time. But they can't exist perpetually. And that's what the Supreme Court said at one point about affirmative action in particular, that there has to come a point at which we don't do this anymore, because either we are treating people on a racially neutral basis, in the case of affirmative action, or we're not. And if we're not, what is the point of Title VI? And as far as I'm concerned, affirmative action was struck down about 20 years too late, maybe 30 years too late. But it eventually was struck down. So there has to come a point at which we say to ourselves, what do we mean to do as a society? If we have these laws that are meant to prevent discrimination, elevation or denigration of someone on the basis of their race in work opportunities, business, and so on, either that sentiment is to be the idea that leads us forward, or it's something that we're just going to continually ignore and make exceptions for. And to what end? To perpetuate the very problem, fundamentally, that these laws were supposed to address. So, okay, in the early 1970s, Xerox had a black employee ERG, or the equivalent thereof, to try to make sure that, there were more opportunities or less discrimination against black people. Okay, well, again, within that sort of bubble of aftermath of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, all right. Why is that still necessary, needed, or not entirely unproductive today? And if it violates or tempts to violate existing law, why continue doing it?
And in some ways, meet both constituents. So what do employees need, but also how can we work together to meet business needs and find alignment there? In fact, now they're sometimes called business resource groups.
Yes, they are sometimes called business resource groups. 6 of one thing, half a dozen of the other.
The potential for ERGs to be a trading ground for future leaders in organizations.
Future leaders in organizations, yes, they have the potential for that, but there's a filtration system, isn't there? As I said before, if these were just professional development groups, develop your leadership skills, develop your technical skills, develop your organizational skills, and those were the ERGs, I would have nothing to say. But that's not the filtration, is it? That's not the line of delineation, is it?
Is really enormous. So you have people who are getting skills such as leading without a lot of influence. Who are project managing, who are managing budgets, who are running different events. Now, that may sound like a normal thing that people do in business all the time.
It does sound like a normal thing that people do in business all the time, but
if your job is engineering, or if it's in sales or marketing, if you're doing something that you're usually not doing in a different part of the organization with people that you don't usually work with,
it's called cross-training. Hey, guys, did you know that productivity is the new metric for success in business? Yeah, we learned that the other day on TEDx. It's called cross-training. I had to do it. at my first real job out of college, I was working in the contract processing department, and once in a while, I had to go over to the accounting department or to the sales department and spend a day, just kind of learning how they do their stuff. On the off chance that either A, maybe I'd like to try to move over to a different department, or B, I could learn what the other departments do and how it integrates into what I do, that kind of thing. Uh-huh.
That is a tremendous opportunity to stretch and grow new skills that enable you to be a more general leader.
You don't say. Again, maybe he's talking to an audience that has no idea what cross-training is, but yeah, it's called cross-training. It's nothing new. And even for the sake of just backup, I have someone who has to learn how to do my job on the off chance I get hit by a bus or something. Currently, I have not getting hit by bus privilege, but on the off chance that privilege ever goes away, I might need somebody to take over my job for a time while I heal up. Cross-training. Faustonia, again, thank you, Faustonia. You're so generous today. Why am I flashing back to Austin Powers saying, mole, 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 mole? Sorry I had to say it. Well, you said it. I didn't. Because, Faustonia, it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. And if you know that reference, you're old or appreciate classic comedies.
The organization.
Uh-huh.
ERGs can also be tremendous in terms of recruiting. So often when somebody is thinking about joining an organization, it's a little worrisome if you're like, I'm going to be the only person here who looks like me.
If you're the kind of person that's going to worry you're the only person who looks like you, honestly, I don't know if I'd want that person working for me. Not because of what they look like, but because of their attitude. If you're so narcissistic, if you're so racist and or sexist or whatever, that you're going to feel uncomfortable around people because they don't look like you, what kind of demands are you going to make on others around you or the company? And does that fall in line with my personal values as a business owner, or the potential pitfalls, as was in the title of this thing, of legal concerns in the future?
And so ERGs can help them automatically and more quickly find people who share their experience.
Okay, their experience. You talked about aesthetics. All you said was look like me. Experience. Okay, yes, because everybody who resembles one another on a physical level has a shared experience. Making assumptions like that, what would you call that if it was a question of people's skin color?
But one of the challenges is that we don't just have one identity.
Yes, we do. I'm Scribe-Lite. That's okay. Well, okay. Admittedly, okay. All right. That's a nom de plume. I guess I have two identities technically, but it's the same thing. If you talk to me in real life, I'd be saying the same things. But I don't have an ERG for my nom de plume. But okay, you get my meaning versus his meaning, yes? Okay.
We have additional identities, and these are also shaping our experience uniquely, and ERGs are no different.
ERGs are no different? Connect that dot.
You're marginalized when you're part of a group that you feel like is underrepresented. There's a real pressure to just focus on that one identity. And
yeah, I mean, I am part of a very, very small and often marginalized identity. No, it's true. I'm not kidding. This is not me being facetious or anything. It's, there are only so many people out there, or a very small population, that know, it's not a belief, it's a fact, that know that The Hunt for Red October is the greatest film ever made. Now, I cannot tell you how often I am marginalized because of that fact. Every time I bring it up, somebody laughs at me. And I'm telling you, so, I need a Hunt for Red October ERG. It's the only way I'll survive. It's the only way I won't feel alone in the world. I'm going to call it one ping only. It's a very exclusive club. You can't join. I'm going to pull the ladder up. Unless you can quote the movie. That's the passcode. Quote the movie. And you can't say, give me a ping facility. Everybody knows that one. It's got to be something more obscure, or else you're not allowed in. Posers.
And not think about the other people who also might continue to be marginalized in that group.
Right.
So in my research, I saw this happening in the women ERG with Black women who felt that they were being additionally marginalized racially within this group.
Oh, okay, so you had a women ERG, but within the women ERG, the Black women felt that they were marginalized. Why did they feel they were being marginalized? Because they didn't see enough of their own kind there? Okay, so I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to guess that then, well, the solution was to make a splinter ERG for Black women employees and not just women employees. Am I close?
And that shaped their lack of participation within that group.
Well, that sounds like a them problem, doesn't it?
So when we think about ERGs, we really need to be thinking them as intersectional spaces that hold multiple identities.
Oh, well, gosh, I mean, the amount of time and effort that are going into imagining what to do with ERGs, I mean, not that this information or this energy or work hours could be put towards something to benefit the company in a tangible way, but okay, well, what do you do? What do you do about a subset of women that feel as though they're being marginalized on the basis of their race? How do you satisfy that problem?
It's not just one. And how can we create programs and create opportunities where everybody in those groups can actually feel like they belong?
I don't know. I am dying to know. How did you solve for the problem of the Black women in the women's ERG feeling marginalized?
And getting everybody to feel like they belong in an ERG, even with these intersecting identities, can be challenging because there are history between these groups.
There's a history between these groups? Like what? I mean, was there a Hatfield's ERG and a McCoy's ERG?
Right. If you look at experience of white women and Black women.
I look at the experience of white women and Black women, because white women and Black women are assumed to have unique, defined experiences one to another because of their skin color.
Which I found in my research is that there were certain kind of long-standing dynamics, racial dynamics between white women and Black women.
Oh, okay. Well, again, how did you solve for this problem?
That shapes Black women's lack of trust of white women, that shaped white women's lack of seeing and recognizing Black women's experience. And
okay, so, all right, well, again, you're building up to it. I'm hoping we get an answer. How did you solve for the obviously inherent racial biases and discriminations held by Black women and white women against each other in your women's ERG?
Within that group. ERGs aren't going anywhere.
No, I'm getting that because, again, out of all the other DEI-related programs and activities that we're reading about being reduced or eliminated by organizations, we're still hearing about the promotion of their ERGs.
But you have a choice. You can work with them.
Yeah.
Or you can not.
But wait, I didn't mean to stop. I was like, you're with us or you're against us. I'm waiting for Anakin Skywalker. Anakin Skywalker, I have a choice. I have a choice. If there's ERGs in my organization, I have a choice, guys.
You can work with them.
Yeah.
Or you can not work with them and have them work against you.
Well, that sounds like a threat, doesn't it? Oh my gosh, guys, if there are ERGs in your company, you've got a choice. You can either work with them or you can have them work against you. Which would you prefer, guys? You know, it's a really nice cubicle you got here. Be a shame if you worked against the ERGs and they had to do something about it.
And so one of the key opportunities of ERGs is that there's an official group. We're working together to say, how is this experience better for our employees? And how can we make this experience better for the organization?
Well, obviously through extortion. I mean, that seems to be the lever on which you will move this boulder. You either work with us or they will work against you.
For people who are thinking about saying, well, we're not going to worry about how to make this better for the organization, employees are not going to stop coming together.
They're not going to stop coming together. You know what? Here's an idea. I know it's a crazy idea. If employees want to get together to have a confab about what it's like to have a particular melanin count or genitals or something, hey, how about they do that on their own time and not on company time? Because to this point, we are now 3 minutes and 30 seconds into an unbidden 5-minute and nigh on 30-second video. And so far, I have yet to hear a single tangible benefit to the business that any of this provides. I mean, he talked about cross-training. He talked about professional development. Like, okay, you're not going to get a whole lot of argument from me on that one. What does that have to do with someone's skin color? What does that have to do with someone's gender? How do these very specific, aesthetically based ERGs tangibly benefit the company? That's my question.
Stop coming together. ERGs started out as informal groups. Then CEOs and CHROs said, we're going to work with you. But I think it's incumbent upon CHROs and CEOs who want to have positive relationships with their employees who have identities who have been marginalized to work with them versus saying, hey, look, your identities don't matter here.
How about your identities do not give you a benefit or a detriment here? They are irrelevant. You're here to do a job. Our company has a mission statement. You get paid to do a thing. Do the thing you're paid for. Your concerns, your personal biases about your race, gender, elsewise. If you can't leave them at the door when you come to work every day, then perhaps we should find a different situation for you in a different company or something. If you're going to kowtow to every whining individual that wants to be special, whose narcissism is so uncontrollable that they can't try to make you think that they are important for something that doesn't make them important, your company is not a strong company. Your leadership is not strong leadership. I don't know what to tell you. It is irrelevant. These are functional irrelevancies. But you want to put a value on them. Now, what happens when you put a value on race when it comes to assessing an individual? And whatever that value is, whether it's in the positive or the negative, you tell me, what would you call that as a belief system? But this is what you're encouraging businesses to do. So chief human resource officers and chief executive officers, these are the things they need to value in their employees if their employees complain that they're not being valued on these elements. Okay.
Because that's going to breed, in my research, discontent. And I've seen ERGs that have said, yeah, we have to go underground because we don't trust them. And that harbored a lot of other negative impact in terms of intention to quit or other kind of negative relations between organization members and leaders.
So if you join a company that is not going to give you brownie points for being a race or a gender, oh no, you may quit. Again, I'm just being a little pragmatic here. If someone wants to quit my hypothetical company where I don't give you a plus or a minus on the basis of what you look like, I am happy to promote you to customer.
I'd offer a couple of pieces of advice.
I would love some pieces of advice.
The first is that you should have the same intentionality about the various identities in the group that you want people to have about your identity in the company overall.
Okay, I'm trying to dissect that in my mind. Can you give me an example?
And so if you're in a company, you're saying, hey, people need to understand that we may not be represented, that we have a unique viewpoint. You should also be prepared to have people tell you that in your group and to be open to that understanding and use it as a space of learning.
A struggle session. Yeah, it's not that, I John have a perspective or something. No, I, as a representative of my racial demographic, have a perspective on something. And if you don't respect my representative racial perspective on something, then you're oppressing an entire demographic of people. You're not just disagreeing with me, John, who's saying this thing. You're disagreeing with everyone I say I represent. And that makes you racist. That doesn't make you Johnist. That makes you racist. That sounded funny the way that it came out, but it's kind of true. I don't agree with what you say, John. Well, then you're not just Johnist, you're racist. My name is Ray. Well, I like you, Ray, so I'm not racist.
The second thing that I would tell people who are trying to create inclusive and belonging ERGs
yes,
is that this is a space that holds diversity and multiplicity.
This is a space that holds multiplicity and diversity. What does that mean?
Even though, again, they're saying we're all women, we're all Black, we're all Asian, we're all this or that identity, there's a lot of variation in that.
No, there isn't. Wait. Whoa. Then, I hate to tell you this, you need to do away with your ERGs real quick because they do not represent the banner category that they're all named after. Variations, differences within that same demographic, but you just said ways of thinking. You're not agreeing with this perspective because we're not being represented as a collective of individuals with nuances that make us different from one another despite our one shared aesthetic quality.
And in your programming and your leadership, when you're thinking about voices, don't go too soon to saying, hey, how are we all on the same page?
Why not?
You can instead say, how can we learn from each other?
Well, no, if I'm a leader and I have a specific goal I'm trying to keep people towards, I want to know that everybody knows their part in the plan to achieve the goal. How are we all on the same page? How can we all learn from one another? Well, if you don't understand something, we will help you to understand to achieve the goal. I don't know. Maybe I'm generalizing. This all sounds like ridiculousness, if you can believe it.
How can we better understand who we are as well?
You don't care about who people are. All you care about is what people are. You've spent this entire time talking about the most surface level, cursory aesthetic qualities of people. Oh, but by the way, guys, did you know that there are nuances even within those demographic groups? What? And then you didn't even tell us how you resolved the problem of having a women's ERG who then had fractures within it on racial lines. How did you resolve those with your theory? Without then further splitting groups up into race-based and gender-based intersectional groups.
Well in here.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's the wit and wisdom of the Harvard Business School, Institutes for Business and Global Society. Boy, howdy. In collaboration with the Race, Gender, and Equity Initiative, which I guess is still going strong at Harvard University, while they fight the Trump administration to maintain their billions of dollars worth of federal funding, despite the fact that things like this, or sentiments thereof, are the kinds of violations of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 that should disqualify them from having any federal funding whatsoever. But hey, what do I know? All right, how are we doing here? We're at an hour and a half? Oh my gosh. All right, so I got a decision to make. I have one last item. It's not a promotional video for a company. It is a 16 minute long, I should say, video from I'm assuming a diversity consultant. And the title of it is, Should Employee Resource Groups Be Open to Allies? All right. Now, I know this is kind of a weird question to ask. Is anybody interested in hearing this, or at least a bit of this? I'm only imagining doing maybe about 5 minutes of it. I don't know if I want to do the whole 15. I got a feeling that we'll get everything we need to know in the first 5 or so minutes. So shall we proceed? Mike R. says, do it, Scribelight, do it. Okay, well, I'm not performing in a Nike commercial. Should I continue with this video? Hi, I'm Steve says yes. I'll take that as a affirmative. Advocate Diablo, not particularly, seems pretty boilerplate. It does a little bit. Mike R says LOL. Walter Chavez says 5 minutes would be fine. Mike Savage says, yeah. Okay, so tell you what, I'll split the difference here. We're only going to do a couple minutes. We'll see what she says in the first introductory moments of this, if she makes an argument. And then, whoops, 1 second here. So this is someone, as far as I know, like most of their channel is centered around DEI arguments or things like this. So I think she's a professional, but let's find out.
Somebody wants to join your ERG, but are they a saboteur?
Are they a saboteur? Well, crikey, governor! I'm British! Or something.
Or are they a supporter?
Are they a saboteur or are they a supporter? Uh-oh.
Should your ERG be open to anyone to join?
Well, again, I don't know where our speaker is operating from, but let's just say for the sake of argument, we're talking about America. Well, technically, yes, because if you actually had a group in your company that only allowed people on the basis of race or gender or orientation or something, you should run headlong into established civil rights laws. But these days, who knows?
You know, how can you navigate losing the element of the safe space? That's what we're going to be getting into in today's video.
Okay, now, for those of you in the audience who are more culturally competent than I am, her accent reminds me of Warwick Davis. Anybody else get that? It sounds like Warwick Davis to me. I don't know if that's like she's from the same region as he came from or something. It sounds very similar. Oh, ERG. The whole channel's based around this, I guess. Oh boy, man, a whole channel filled with ERG strategies. Okay.
Hey everyone, I am Cheryl Miller and this is ERG Strategy.
Hi Cheryl, I'm Scribe.
The channel that helps you build effective, engaged employee resource groups and communities that make a big impact.
I'm sure they make a big impact. They could make a big impact on the company's wallet if a lawsuit comes about.
So if that's what you're here for, there'll be videos every Tuesday and Friday. Subscribe, hit the notification bells so that you know when new videos are out.
Yeah, exactly. That message goes to the rest of you guys. Hey, if you haven't already hit the like button, hit the like button. And subscribe if you already subscribe. Also, over on the community leaderboard, at number 1 right now, we have Fostonia with 150 XP. At number 2, Advocatus Diabli, also with 150 XP. And at number 3, Jill Powers, the River Daughter, with 150 XP. But Mike R also has 150 XP. Luna has 150 XP. Meh has 150 XP. Juliet has 150 XP. Eagle. There's a whole bunch of people with 150 XP that should be... that are equal to the top person on the slide. So I don't know what differentiates this. But you're all number 1 in my heart.
Let's get into this. So
okay.
This video was inspired by a post I saw on LinkedIn, a real life post.
A real life post?
On LinkedIn. And it was about an ERG where somebody had joined the ERG and it was felt that the person had joined really just to kind of like be a bit of a spy or a saboteur, you know, to kind of just nosy into what this ERG are doing.
Aha, so you are the outsider. You are questionable. We must test this person's loyalty to the ERG.
Right, it was an ERG. It was an ERG in the States. And obviously, if you watched my video from a few days ago, which you may be linked here or here.
Well, it's not, but that's okay. Okay, so ERG in the States. Okay, so this is an American company or organization with an ERG. And someone joined who is suspect,
You will understand why, because part of the legislation coming out of the States is that ERGs must be open to everyone.
Yes! I mean, I don't think they should exist at all if they're based on race, gender, or any of the other elements listed in Title VII. But at the very least, you can't bar someone from joining a group within an American company because they don't fit the right race or something.
Okay, so that's the situation in the States.
Yes.
Now, that doesn't necessarily apply in other countries, but
should it? Do you think it should?
I have got some statistics
Oh.
about how open ERGs are in other countries. So,
by all means.
We ran a survey at the start of the year 2025. We ran a survey of ERG leaders from around the globe, but mainly respondents were in the UK and US. And we asked, for your ERGs, what percentage of you have your ERGs so that events are open to everyone or close to everyone or hybrid? And also your planning meetings, as in your committee meetings, again, are they open to everyone or are they closed?
Okay, now this is actually an interesting piece of info. I'm genuinely interested to know what the responses were, because this would be, since you mentioned current legislation in the States, as recent an assessment of what ERGs are doing as I could have asked for. Okay.
Hybrid, how does it work?
Yes.
So
yes.
the stats, here are the stats. So
Okay.
4% of ERG leaders that answered our survey said that all of their events are closed. So I worked with an ERG.
So only 4% said all of their events were closed. Okay, closed only to, or closed against everybody except those that fall within the ERGs category. Okay.
ERG leader, was it last year or the year before? I can't remember, maybe a couple of years ago.
I want to go back to that chart real quick. She only left it up on there for a second. Okay, while events are mainly open to all, ERGs are split on allies attending committee meetings. Question 9. Are your ERG events and or planning meetings open to allies? 4% said no, 16% said hybrid of one kind or another, and then 81% said yes, and that's on events. For planning meetings, 26% are closed, as in only those people who fall within the ERGs category can join. 23% are hybrid, 51% are open to all on planning meetings. Okay, so interesting. Now she didn't then divide it up on respondents from the US versus the UK. I'd be curious to know how those were split up. Maybe she'll get to that.
Leaders that answered our survey said that all of their events are closed. So I worked with an ERG leader, was it last year or the year before? I can't remember, maybe a couple of years ago. And this was the situation. When I first started working with them, all of their meetings, every single meeting was closed to allies. It was purely just for members of the community.
Yeah, members of that demographic. Allies, community, you mean, racial, gender, orientation, demographic.
Okay. 26% of ERG leaders say that their planning meetings are closed. So that's just for your planning meetings or your committee. That's just over a quarter are saying actually when we have our planning meetings, it's closed to allies. It's just members.
26% is just over a quarter, you say. Okay.
81% of ERG leads said that all events are open. So that's, 4 out of 5 say all events are open. 51% say that it's hybrid. So they've maybe got some events that are closed. So
No, 51% is open. 23% is hybrid. I'm looking at your own chart.
Maybe they're running some safe space type events or something, and they're closed. So those are some of the statistics. So it's kind of a mixed picture, but I would say the majority are kind of open.
Yes, the majority are kind of open.
Majority are leaning towards open. And as I say, with what came out in the States, our survey was run before the executive orders in the States. I reckon if we ran that survey now, with what's happened in the States, I think we'd probably have more ERGs now saying it's open just because of what has happened legally in the States. And then also the influence on other ERGs as well, particularly any ERG that's, sort of like tied to an organization that is global.
I'd be curious to know if she'll say, and I'm only going to let this run another minute or so, if she says what her opinion is on the opened or closed nature of ERGs.
Okay. Let me just share with you a little story about my experience.
I would love it. And after your story, I think we'll wrap this up.
Of being, it wasn't an employee resource group. It was a specialist sort of advisory group that had been brought together by an organization, a clinical organization that was interested in research. It was actually psychological research.
Okay, I'll give you some space to tell the story. It better be good.
And they had specifically brought together a group of individuals from different ethnicities because they were concerned that when it came to research and approving things like funding and what research should go ahead, they were concerned that they did not have ethnic diversity, right?
Ethnic diversity in what, decision making? Maybe I missed something.
And so they brought on an advisory group of individuals from different ethnic with either lived experience or, maybe family members with sort of mental health challenges, etc.
Okay. I mean, family members with mental health challenges to me would seem to supersede whatever their cultural or ethnic background was, unless there's some cultural reflex towards mental illness that varies between cultures or something. Okay.
So I joined this advisory group. It's great, actually. It had one or two allies in, so people who were from a white British background.
Right, because if you're white and British, or just in this case white, because so that makes you an ally. You can't be a white British person who has a perspective or has experience with a family member who's had mental health issues. Now you're an ally because you're a subclass of participant. And what defines you as a subclass of participant is your race and your ethnicity, because your race and ethnicity are of lesser value. Is that it?
And I remember there was the one conversation about membership of the group. And there was one particular individual who, a white British man.
A white British man, obviously an ally.
Fairly sort of like middle class, fairly senior, was retired actually.
Okay, a white British man, senior, retired, middle class.
And he sort of explained, so we were talking about, membership, and he explained, well, I know I don't fit the criteria, but I just love to come and learn, so he was there.
He was there out of curiosity. Okay.
Really to learn. But the other thing I would add is, even though he said he was coming to learn, and so a lot of people would think that means listening, he did a lot of talking.
How dare he? He was let into this group and he was allowed to talk even though he was a white, British, middle-class, retired, senior individual? Obviously, he should know his place and shut up. Because being invited to be part of a group doesn't mean you get to participate as much as anyone else in the group if you're part of an allyship rather than... My pause game is on point here. That judgy face. That judgy... How dare he have something to say?
I'm just saying, he did a lot of talking.
I bet you did none.
For somebody that had no lived experience.
He had no lived experience.
Wasn't really knowledgeable.
Wasn't really knowledgeable about what?
He did a lot of talking.
What are you... I don't care. I don't care. I'm done. I gave it 5 minutes. I don't need much else. If that's the attitude that's going to be prevalent in this talk or this presentation, it's like, well, we had an advisory committee from people from all different backgrounds, all different places and ethnicities and stuff, except for the white men. Obviously, they are the groundlings in this situation. And boy, for someone that has no lived experience, a senior, retired, middle class white man knows nothing that could be useful here, and boy, he had a lot to say. Okay, well, there you go. I guess the answer is, should allies be allowed to join ERGs? I mean, If you have to, I guess. But if they do, make sure they know their place. Anyway, another minute here or two for your guys' and then comments, then we'll move on. Take it from me. Okay. I'm trying to interpret. I know I don't fault you for typos. The psychotics need therapy, but they never seek it to help themselves, just to control the sessions. Typical narcissistic, unempathetic jerks, I'm assuming. Okay. I'm trying. TC just says, hey, Faustonia. Blue-eyed scream. These people hear themselves speak. Well, I mean, again, just imagine. You talk about, we hear so often about empathy in these kind of talks and things. If she could just imagine for a moment that there was a white person saying that about two black people participating in a talk, and like, boy, they sure had a lot to say. They wouldn't stop talking. What would that sound like? I don't know. Yeah, self-reflection. You want a sense of belonging when and all she said about these individuals, she described them as white British men. And then that one guy had a couple of extra descriptors. Now, what was his experience? No, sorry, he had no experience. He had no lived experience. Lived experience is exclusive to people of a particular race, I guess, or not a particular race. Advocates Diabli, having secret meetings on company time for things that have nothing to do with the company business sounds like an ethical concern before you even add the discriminatory aspect. Yeah, like I was saying before, if you want to do this on your own personal time, fine. Not on company time. And if you're actively aligning yourselves to undermine the goals of the company through this stuff, well, then we might have to reconsider whether or not you belong in the company if you're going to either take time out or move to try to undermine what we're doing here. And especially if your ideas for improving the company are based on race or something. Again, I know I keep harping on this, but there are certain laws that have been on the books for a long time that should dissuade companies in America, at least, and organizations therein, from considering such things. But what do I know? I'm just scribe light with an English degree and a whole lot of free time on my hands. Anyway, everybody, that's the show. Thank you so much for joining me. A couple of notes. First and foremost, if you'd like to join the Discord server, do you know I have a Discord server? I have a Discord server. If you'd like to join the Discord server, click on the link in the chat right now. You'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to say the secret word. The secret word will tell me you actually watched the stream, are not a bot, and have thus earned the right, the privilege, the entitlement to join the Discord server. And today's secret word is inclusive. Just say hello, inclusive, and I'll know that you watched the show. Beyond that, tomorrow, unless schedules conflict, which is possible, but tomorrow, the plan is, at 9:05 a.m. Pacific Time, noon 05 p.m. Eastern Time, on Midnight's Edge, I'll be on the panel for Midnight's Edge in the morning, where we'll talk about the box office over the weekend, and movie rumors, and probably Fantastic Four, and maybe the Frankenstein thing coming out on Netflix soon, and who knows what. We'll talk about all types of stuff on Midnight's Edge in the morning tomorrow. And then, if all things line up, at 12:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, will be the next episode of DEI Death Watch, where I'll take a look at the latest news in the downfall and the doubling down of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Look for that tomorrow. Anything else before I forget? Oh yeah, hit the like button. Wait, 3 times in the same stream? I say hit the like button. If you haven't already, hit that like button, share this stream, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and do all that good stuff. And also, if you see this out on X, retweet the stream on X. Everyone, thank you so much for joining me and enduring this educational and, experience with me. This lived experience, this shared experience we have had together. Thank you so much for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved. You have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated either to myself or, again, at the top of the chat box, the donation link to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Thank you guys so much for your generosity. Very much appreciate it. The final tally of leaderboard participants. Mike R is in the number 1 place with 200 XP. Fostoni at number 2 with 150 XP. Advocatus Diaboli at number 3 with 150 XP. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 people that also have 150 XP that should be tied for both the second and third spots. And you all know who you are. And either way, you're all winners because you watched my show. Unlike ERGs, I have a very low bar for entry. If you just want to show up and hang out, you're welcome. Everyone, hope you have a good rest of your Sunday. Hope you have a good rest of your week ahead of you. I hope you're all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.